Hello, everyone. Good to be back with you. And again, for our second half of our conversation, it's good to have Kagan Parker back with us. We had such a great time talking. Last week, she talked with us, and a lot of it was revolving around her journey, your journey of self-actualization and your journey of finding your authentic self. And we're finishing up this series, Don't Be a Jerk, a primer for the Kingdom of Heaven, or I think we're calling it an introduction to a beginner's introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. But really the idea is the essence of this Sermon on the Mount is finding that we are all in this together, but we have to get to that place of both loving ourselves enough to recognize that everyone is lovable. You know, to find that same acceptance for one another. I think you called it last week, you called it, the Buddhist term was perpetual okayness.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to continue our thought. There was so much we didn't cover that I hope we get to cover today. Within the same area, we're still talking about this journey, but I hope it'll be a good way for us to summarize what this whole series has been about as well. So you keep me on track, I'll keep you on track, and we'll have some fun with it. And I believe that you're going to sing a song for us as well. Yay!
Yes.
So sticking around for the second half was worth it. So I'm going to start us off with a story, just to I know you'll resonate with it. Some of these folks have heard it. But this is an old story that comes out of the rabbinic tradition. So it's probably around the 11th, 12th century. Comes out of the Hasidic mystical tradition of Judaism. So the Rabbi Susya was a well-known and highly regarded rabbi, a teacher among the Hasid. And on his deathbed, it was said that the disciples had gathered around him, and they couldn't help but notice he was weeping. And this was really surprised him. It disturbed him. In fact, they were so upset. They said, "Why, Rabbi? Why are you weeping? You have been such a great example to us. You have led such an exemplary life, a kind, compassionate life. You've been such a mentor for all of it. Why are you weeping?" And he says, "I'm afraid what will happen when I get to heaven and stand before God." And they said, "How can you say that? You, Rabbi Susya, how could you say that, Rabbi?" And he said, "I'm not afraid that when I get there, they'll ask me, why wasn't I more like Moses? Or why wasn't I more like Abraham or Isaac? I am afraid that what the Lord will ask me is, why weren't you more like Susya?"
Ooh.
Yeah, so that speaks to this
Wow.
journey, right?
Yeah.
Of authenticity, of finding that truest who we are. Frederick Buechner, one of my favorite theologians, used to say, and this is something a lot of people are familiar with, I think, but that the place where God calls us is the place where our deepest love, our deepest passion meets the great needs around us.
I like that.
That's where we're called to be in that moment.
I would agree with that. Also, I feel like that's a question God might ask. Why didn't you pursue yourself in this journey at all? Because as a rabbi, he should have been able to, pursue God and himself and to show people what it looked like to be himself. And that's really interesting. I never thought
one
about
of the
that.
things that I meant to bring up last week, too, that this may relate to us as we start looking at critical race theory and just your experience of being in Baltimore and what you've learned there, but is this idea that we often think, I learned a new word last week, superregatory. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to try to spell it. But it's basically going beyond the call of duty, right? So doing that going beyond what would be normally expected. Christianity's rife with that. It's like, if you're a good Christian, you do these things.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a good Christian, you sacrifice in these ways. So we're always measuring ourselves by what we didn't do. But I think Christianity is more about just living.
I agree.
It's just daily life.
Yeah.
If you're doing your dishes, do it with passion and attentiveness. If you're with someone, a loved one, be there.
Yeah.
If you find some need, be there. It just feels like being a good Christian is just daily living.
It really is. I think we get caught up in the rules and the regulations and the lists far too often for everything, not just Christianity. There's always a checklist for something, but I think finding joy in doing dishes is amazing. I enjoy doing dishes, and it's not because I like doing dishes, but I know they have to be done. And I'd love for whoever to come in the kitchen next to have a space where they can make their food and be comfortable. And so you find the joy in the little things, and all of a sudden something monotonous becomes purposeful. And then you don't think about it anymore at all. And then there's space to think about something else. And
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
interesting how that just keeps building on itself. And then all of a sudden you realize there's so much space for everything. You don't have to pick and choose.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So how has this journey been for you being in Baltimore and finding more of yourself in this process and what you're called to be about? Tell us a little bit more about that.
It's been lonely. I think that's something that we don't really think about a lot, but getting to know yourself is lonely in the normal sense. Like without others, you can't really evaluate yourself in a room full of people. There's lots of long walks and quiet spaces and tears because you kind of are unpacking this gift that you never knew that you were given, and that you've just ignored for the longest time. Being able to do for myself what I do for others in terms of acceptance and listening and companionship and love and forgiveness for myself, to myself, has been revolutionary. And it allows me to do it for others at this point breathlessly. I don't even have to think about it because I know I'm taken care of, and I know how to do it because I've practiced with myself, and it's given me this space to give endlessly because I'm okay. And I've checked in with myself first, and I've spent my time in loving on myself first. And
Yeah.
it's weird because it's not taught to you ever. It's very much so you go
It's
after it on your
it's a
own.
mystical practice.
It's completely
It
mystical.
really is. There's a
And it's
process of totally letting go.
totally letting go, and it's different for everyone. I think the danger with sharing about your experience of how you found yourself is that someone wants to shape their journey after yours, and that's not what that's for. It's meant to be an inspiration for you to try something for yourself to see how you can get to know yourself, because there's no cut and dry way to get to know yourself. Long walks work for me, showers work for other people, and journaling doesn't work for me. I don't like journaling, but everyone tells you should journal and write down your thoughts, and I'm good on it. I can't do it. I don't like it. I do small videos and voice notes for myself.
Oh, nice.
So it's different for everybody, but it's been hard and ugly. And I've learned a lot about myself that I can rejoice in. And then there's a lot that I have to change. And I think that's the part about this authentic self process that I think is the most interesting, is that I get to pick who I am at the end of the day. The things that I learn about myself that I don't like, I have the freedom and the ability to adjust.
So let's think about that in the context. We were talking about this in crafting difficult conversations because this next week is Thanksgiving. So I mean, I'm sure a lot of us will be having distanced Thanksgivings.
Yeah.
A lot of us will be having Zoom Thanksgivings, but quite a few of us will be together with family because we've had these inner circles all along that have been fairly quarantined, so to speak. So, but we know that we're going to encounter those awkward moments, especially since we're still in this transitional political time. There's going to be the tensions,
Yeah.
and they might be around that. They might be around race. They might be around religion. They'll probably definitely be around politics. How does this kind of self-acceptance, this perpetual okayness that you talked about, or as Paul Tillich, the accepting our acceptance, how does that speak to the potential train wrecks?
Train wrecks indeed, because they never seem to end well, because I think they're always entered into with a point to prove or some sort of ending that you're looking for. But as it pertains to this authentic self, once you find this wholeness in yourself, you can start to see the wholeness in everybody else. Everybody else's beliefs equal who they are, and they're happy that way. And it makes them who they are. And to think that one conversation would impact the wholeness of somebody is foolish. So once you're kind of good with yourself, it allows you to enter into those conversations from a completely different perspective, with respect and understanding and acceptance. Like, I can just allow you to be you, and I can be me. And when we want to meet and have a conversation, you have so much room for that because you're not judging anybody. I have my own weird thoughts. I know you have your own weird thoughts. And I think everybody wants to criminalize politics, but it's an opinion. It's how I think. I align myself with these ideas. You align yourself with these ideas. And it's once you kind of lay it out, I know what I believe. We can have a conversation about it. And it's not about changing each other's minds as much as it is getting to know each other's authentic self.
I believe I like the way you were saying it during the crafting conversations time. You said, we're just having a conversation here.
Just talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no goal here. There's no end result. There's no I think expectations is the one that people really get themselves into a tiff with, because they go into this talk like, I'm going to change my aunt into a Democrat kind of thing. And Auntie's been just fine being whatever she is since before you got here. So that's a very, a big thought to have about a conversation. But if we're just talking, if we're just opening up to each other and making that space, then I think that's really where you allow people to be okay with changing, to be okay with being wrong. And I don't even think it's about being right or wrong as much as it is finding something that your heart truly aligns with versus aligning with the things that you've been exposed to, which are two completely different things, because you can only know what you know. The things that have been laid out for you in your environment, in your education, in your space, those are things that you're going to naturally align with because that's what you've been given.
That's what you know, yeah.
We all have this
But
curiosity.
we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all have this innate curiosity to know, but it only goes so far as to where we're comfortable, because the unknown is a little scary. So when you get into a conversation with someone in a safe space, you can expose them to things that they may not know in a nice way, not in a, you did this wrong your whole life, and I can't believe you think like that, and that's a disgusting thought to have.
It makes me think of the text that we read earlier, which was just a continuation of this last part of the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus was saying, if in order for you to, in our relationships with others, it says, before you mess with the splinter in your brother's or sister's eye, take a look at the log in your own.
Yes.
And that text really speaks to, I think, what it means to be in this community together, that we're all in this, we're all sort of experiencing this suffering, and we're all a part of this reality. I had that quote last week that I quoted from, let's see if I can find it here, from Catherine Mansfield, that everything that in life is, that we undergo, it undergoes change, and life is suffering. But learning that is an act of love.
It really is.
And sharing that and recognizing that with one another. But there's that leap that you have to assume, as you were saying, we don't know what we don't know in all of our encounters, in this conversation, in all of our moments. And that's a practice. That's a disciplined practice.
It really is. It's easy to wag your finger at somebody else and shame them for what they don't know.
React out of our emotions, react out of our neurology.
That's super easy. But I'm finding that the easy reactions that our bodies elicit are usually the most negative ones. We're fearful really quickly.
Right.
We're judgy really quickly. And so to teach yourself to slow down for 2 seconds and to kind of take a step back out of your own head and take a bigger view.
I played with these words that really fit into that, because I love etymology.
Yes, I do too.
So, and I think that's so important, because we talked about code switch last week and how we come at things with certain language. Well, we don't realize what we're saying.
Yes.
We're just assuming this has always been the right way to say it. Courage is about bravery. Courage is about the willingness to go in and, face it. No, it's not. Courage is an openness of your heart. It's literally rooted in the word heart.
Being okay with being afraid.
Yeah.
Is courage.
Courage is actually the opening up in the moment. It's such a different way of seeing it. And then, of course, confidence. I loved this because confidence is really rooted in the word trust. And this idea of perpetual okayness, accepting our acceptance. I mean, trusting the ground of our being, and that we're all sharing this. We're all related in this ground of being. Trusting that maybe others don't recognize it yet, but they can get there. And then this idea of curiosity that we've been talking about, and when you come into conversations, if you approach it more with curiosity. Curiosity is rooted in the word care. It's rooted in the word cure, the Latin word cura, or to care.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I like that because I feel like curiosity really is extending yourself in this non-threatening way to learn
Yeah.
and to absorb. And I feel like there's a lot of care in that because people want to share.
I think a couple of weeks ago, Linda and I talked about salt and light.
Mm.
You know, you are the light of the world, you are the salt of the world, and we talked about what you really bring to the moment, how you flavor the moment, how you bring out the flavor of the moment.
Huh. I
You know?
like that. I like that a
So
lot.
curiosity is that kind of thing too.
It's a beautiful thing when you can get to a place where you can be genuinely curious like a child.
That reminds me of a story that Linda and I, actually it's a little video clip that Linda and I showed way back at the beginning of the summer, so some of these folks will remember this, but it's just so resonant with this idea of the innocence of a child and of this acceptance, how easily they come into this kind of reality. It's harder for us as adults. And so it's these two boys, I guess they're 7, one's black, one's white. They're maybe a little bit younger, but they're dressed identical. And I think someone asked them, "What are you doing?" And they're saying, "We're dressing up identical so our moms can't tell us apart."
I love that.
I
really
do too. I love that innocence, but it's really they see each other from this perspective of courage. And they don't think of it as courage. They don't think of it as bravery.
Sure.
They simply have open hearts. They've simply opened up enough to see each other for who they are in relationship rather than for who they are differently. Right? And that's harder for us.
Yeah.
God, we got to unpack a lot of stuff.
Definitely.
Right? Which is to your point of that perpetual okayness, accepting our acceptance. This idea of seeking first, in our text, seeking first the kingdom of heaven, or what I would call the kingdom of heaven, and all these other things will come. People often try to make that a dualistic thing, but it's really about seeking that relationship, that shalom, that right relationship now
Yeah.
in all things. And that's enough. That's really all. Everything else comes out of that. If we're really doing that right, if we're doing that well.
Yeah.
And you had a song about that.
I did.
Yeah,
yes.
you wrote a song about, what's it called?
It's called I Am Enough.
I Am Enough. Yeah.
Which seems like a really simple phrase, but was very impactful for me
Powerful phrase.
and for the people that I've had the opportunity to perform for. But it's something I have to remind myself every day.
And we have a recording of you doing that here.
Yes.
So we're gonna watch that right now, and we'll come back.
I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. There is no need to think so hard. You're doing just fine. Put all those restless thoughts to bed so they tell no more lies. Comparison poison slides down my throat, constricting my heart and killing my worth. Feeling so lonely behind this brick wall that I've built so high to cover my flaws. There is no need to think so hard. Have faith in yourself. Confidence is key for ruling your world. Forgetting is easy, try reminding each day. Committed to memory so it won't go away. And even on days when the anxious storms come, you see through the rain and know you're enough. Enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, I am enough. I am enough. Oh, I am enough. Ooh, I am enough.
Thank you for that. That was amazing. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I love that. I love hearing your voice. Just such a sweet, it's just beautiful. It just really is. It's nice to settle into that voice.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
sharing that. But also, I got to resonate with a couple of the lyrics. I have a book at home that's titled "Am I Overthinking This?" I mean, your line, "There is no need to think so hard. You're doing just fine. Put all the restless thoughts to bed so they tell no more lies." I mean, do you do this? Do you spiral at night sometimes with the thoughts and the narratives that you're telling yourself?
All the time. And I'm sure it's the same for many people, but all the time. I'll take one word and end up in a whole nother universe and be completely wrong about where I started and upside down. And you kind of just have to stop it all and just back up and just remind yourself that you have control over the things that you have control of. And I can only impact the things that are directly within my reach.
Yeah, how does this relate then? I mean, because you're in Baltimore, and there's obviously been a big difference experiencing reality there and here. Not that there's not injustice and racism and poverty and all those things happening there here as well, but there's a whole different way of experiencing it that's been revealed to you. How is this overthinking? How are you putting that all in perspective there?
It was a big switch, honestly. It's in your face there. Suffering is everywhere in the DMV. We're on top of each other. First of all, the population density is far greater than it is here. We have so much space in Texas. You can forget there's homelessness here. You cannot forget there's homelessness where I live now, and it's everywhere. And there's, you see kids that don't have, and you see families that don't have, and you go through the underprivileged like neighborhoods, and my heart bleeds. And I had to learn how to actually make my heart stop bleeding because it wasn't doing anything for anybody. It was just making me sad and only impacting my day to day. And so I had to kind of make a shift and really try to figure out how to impact the things around me and how to deal with the things that only I could deal with. How to, my smile does something that other people's smile doesn't do. So what if I smile more? What if I offer these thoughts to people? What if I just show this unconditional kindness wherever I go? Versus, the East Coast can be a little harsh. So I look kind of funny running around smiling in everybody's face, but it's the one thing that I know that I can do to brighten other people's day and to volunteer in places that matter, to get involved with the youth, to help educate people that come my way about sexual education, racial struggles, and all sorts of things that I have knowledge on. So what can I do with these tools that I've given myself? What can I do to impact the people around me and do that in a realistic way that's not overextending and that's not, grandiose or anything, but it's realistic. It's honest. It's hard. It's, to correct people when they're incorrect about things, like, just to catch somebody with one wrong thought and to be like, hey, did you know? You can free yourself from that negativity if you think this way. And that kind of stuff is crazy, but
That's a great way to put that. Hey, did you know you can let go of that negativity?
You can let go of that. You don't have to think like that. Can I
love
offer
that.
you something?
Yeah, that's
and
great.
It's made my life easier.
You mentioned to me early on your fondness for Eartha Kitt.
Yes.
And I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was such a blast from the past and a revelation to me.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't know she was the third Catwoman.
Which is so crazy.
In the 60s, in the late 60s, she was the third Catwoman. And thinking back on it, looking at some of the old YouTube clips, she was amazing.
Yeah.
And she was a very different kind of Catwoman.
A Spitfire.
Very self-identified black woman.
Yes.
In a white world acting. And she just was, she was very authentic.
It was grotesquely authentic. Honestly, it made people uncomfortable. And I loved it. Like, I loved her energy coming into a room was just this absolute, like, I do not care. and I'm not interested, and I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to do my job. I'm here to be fantastic. And that energy just, it spoke to me because I've always made myself small and to fit in these white spaces. And so kind of getting to watch her career, unfortunately, I kind of became a fan after she passed away, but had seen a little bit of her growing up, but really became a fan when I saw her in The Emperor's New Groove. She played Yzma, and it was the most incredible vocal performance I had ever heard. Like her voice, you could hear
I didn't
it.
remember that. I got to go back and listen to that
Gosh,
now.
you have to. You immediately, once you know it's her, you're like, oh my gosh, that's
Do you have
her.
a quote of hers? That
I
was
do.
one you shared with me. I thought that was really
yes,
fun.
yes. Let me pull it up. It's just so full of everything that I've been experiencing lately. And her words are just such a great reminder. She said, it's about falling in love with yourself and sharing that love with someone who appreciates you rather than looking for the love that you find to compensate for a self-love deficit. So it's like, I don't have that self-love and I want to go find that love kind of thing.
Right.
So I'm going to love myself enough
Yeah.
to where when I find somebody I'm in love with, I can just share it with them. And then she says, the price we pay for being true to ourselves is worth it.
Oh, that makes me wonder too. How much of Christianity is compensation? Oh, I had never
Ouch.
thought about that.
Isn't
That
that
seems
a
like
lot?
that'd be a great phrase to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Putting on Christianity, so to speak,
And you don't have to.
and you don't have to.
You can totally just be yourself. And
Yeah.
it's such a big price to pay because I've lost friends and relationships that I used to stand on have completely vanished. And the things that I thought I knew, I don't anymore, but I know myself, and that's been worth
Yeah.
more than anything else in the world.
So this has been so much fun. And this second session with you has been really fun, too, to have a chance to hear you sing as well as to talk a little bit more about where you are in your journey. And we're going to be talking more. We can do a lot more talking. But if anybody wants to talk more with Kagan, she'll be back in Baltimore, but she'll be joining us on Monday nights on a lot of them.
Yes.
And so you can always join in with Crafting Difficult Conversations, and just it's a great space to address things vulnerably, honestly, authentically, and a lot of learning. It's really great fun in that regard. I wanted to let you have a final word out, and I want to think about is there what's one of more of sort of one of the steeper learning curves where you see yourself right now?
That's a good one. So the biggest learning curve that I think that I've come up against at this point is kind of not changing myself based on the space, I think is the biggest one, is learning how to be authentic at all times. That takes a lot of energy because it's so much easier for me as someone who's become adaptable to just adapt. But I love who I am. I love who I've grown to be. So learning how to take that form and that energy and that being and take it fearlessly into every space, huge learning curve. I'm terrified. Really not sure how to do it all the time. And then there's also this, now that I've realized so much about myself and I've gotten to know myself and I know that I want to impact people's lives and I want to make a difference, but how do I do that? Where do I start? What do I do? So I went back to school and I'm getting a new degree and I'm trying to figure out, now that I know these systems are in place that are there to actually hold back people that look like me, what can I do to get in those systems' way? Because I don't accept it.
Yeah.
I see it, but I absolutely will not accept it. So
Right.
what can I do as someone who now sees them to do something about it? And that's been a bit of a learning curve because at the same time, I'm still a part of those systems. I'm still an African-American woman. So while trying to make a difference, I'm going to then accrue the wrath of the systems that don't want me to make a difference. So that's been really terrifying, honestly. I want to work in HR. I want to be able to help build the cultures in these big companies and actually make them diverse and help them understand what diversity actually is. It's not two Black people in that department.
Yeah.
It's, a space where people can feel welcomed and at home and
Absolutely.
see people that look like them.
And
But-
accept diversity for diversity's sake.
And just accept it. It
Yeah,
doesn't,
and
diversity
learn from
isn't,
it.
exactly, diversity
Yeah.
isn't supposed to look like anything. It's diverse, it's different. But it's hard for me to go into this journey of getting that degree and going into that industry while understanding that companies don't want an African American woman to be the head of HR. I'm tapping on everyone's door to make sure they're doing their paperwork and they're following government rules and purviews and things like that. They don't want somebody who looks like me to do that job. And I know that. But I still want to try.
Yeah.
And I want to find those companies who are willing to take a chance and who want to actually do something different. So it's scary, but fun.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I also see that, you're not rooting this journey in the past. It's informed by the past. But that's the whole, I mean, the whole thing is that the future is open. It's
Exactly.
possible. And if you approach it that way, especially from this place of acceptance and acceptance, mutual acceptance, then there is this opportunity that comes with that. I think that's what this whole text has been about. This whole Sermon on the Mount has really been about how we find confidence, trust in the ground of our being, and how we move out of that with open-heartedness and with a compassionate care that curiosity can be. And it sounds like that's the journey that you're on.
Yes.
Yeah. I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And spending this time with us, 2 Sundays. Thanks so much for doing that.
It's a pleasure.
I hope we get to see you again in this capacity and get to hear you again in music. Be sure and check her out. You don't go by the same name.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So I started going by a stage name, Multi. Online, you can find me as Dear Multi because I liked the idea of people writing me letters and already starting with Dear Multi.
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 So
Dear Multi.
Dear Multi.
Okay.
And you can find it on SoundCloud is where I normally post most of my
Yeah,
stuff.
We'll be checking that out for
Yes,
sure.
that'd be awesome.
Listen, you all have a great, thank you again. Thank you again. I can't thank you enough. But you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and hope it's filled with lots of curious moments and lots of connection and some blessings in spite of where we are with this COVID such. And we will see you again next week as we begin Advent season and start looking towards Christmas. So blessings to you all. Brad, take us out.